As I said, great on the TV, smart, on point. Again, ahead of the curve on so many issues related to Russia and spying. The man literally wrote the book on ISIS and Al-Qaeda. Amazing communicator and just a real gentleman in our interactions. He and I have been trying to figure this out for some time, and we finally made it happen between his numerous requests for speaking and other engagements. Just briefly summarizing the man's bio, go to his website, thetacticsofterror.org. Malcolm Nance, career counterterrorism, an intelligence officer in the U.S. government special operations, Homeland Security, and intelligence agencies. More than 33 years of experience in combating radical extremism. An honorably retired U.S. Navy Arabic-speaking intelligence collections operator, field interrogator, Sears, survival, evasion, resistance, and escape specialist, and founder of the Advanced Terrorism, Abduction, and Hostage Survival School. He spent more than 2 decades on clandestine antiterrorism and counterterrorism intelligence operations in the Middle East, North Africa, the Balkans, South Asia, and sub-Saharan Africa, in direct support of U.S. special operations and intelligence community. And again, on the morning of 9/11, he eyewitnessed the attack on the Pentagon and became a first responder at the crash site, author of numerous books. And I'm going to stop right there. Remember that Star Trek episode where Kirk, classic Trek, was accused of killing his buddy, was it Commander Feeney? And then they're reading Kirk's decorations and record, and then they had to stop. And he's like, I don't want to gum up the wheels of justice too much. But needless to say, Malcolm Nance. We talk about Trump. We talk about Russia. We try to figure out what the real motivations are. We talked a few days ago, this Trump temper tantrum. You can read my piece about Trump over at salon.com and the movie Inside Out. The man he's a man-child. He's a child king. Was that strategic? Is he just trying to distract folks? And we just go where we may from there. And Malcolm Nance, he says something very provocative. He says, when this all comes out, he believes this will be the greatest act of espionage and treason, something that would rival Benedict Arnold. Worse than the Rosenbergs of the nuclear secrets. Certainly worse than Watergate. And with the instability in the world, to think that Donald Trump, being played by Putin, surrounded by Nazis, white nationalists, white supremacists, I have that Venn diagram, 99.9% overlap, Bannon, Miller, Anton, and Gorka. We don't know what's going to happen in the next 30 days. I'm being real. We simply do not know. So next segment, you're on the Chauncey DeVega Show. One-on-one with Malcolm Nance.
Well, we got no room on the raft, so throw your coat down on the pile. There's no room on the rack, so throw your coat down on the pile. Yeah, we joke around all day long, but when night time comes, we joke around some more. Just throw your coat on the pile and get yourself out on the wall.
We got the tip of the iceberg, and there's always something beneath it. Why are they going through all of this trouble to lie upon lie upon lie upon lie? What are they actually trying to hide? Is it just the money?
This story is going to come down to one of two things, or both things. If we're lucky, it will just be one thing, and that is either an inordinate amount of money that was promised to these people. And I say promised to them because why else would you have the former senator who was in charge of the Armed Forces and Intelligence Committee going out of his way to find the Russian ambassador, having these meetings with the Russian ambassador, and treating him like royalty, and then who felt compelled to lie about it? You're going to get caught because there's two sides to every conversation. There's your side, right? And if you're lucky, your side doesn't include the FBI recording. And then there's the Russian side. So if you were covering it up, the Russians could leak it. So you're going to get caught anyway. All you had to say was, well, as part of my job, I occasionally met people. Nope, they lied. So for that to have that much influence, the first major motivator would have to be just incredible amounts of money that have been promised that everyone's going to get a share. On the other hand, the other alternate possibility is that this is espionage. And I mean espionage in the sense that these people were part of the team that coordinated or helped the Russians coordinate their attack on Hillary Clinton. And if that's the case, well, then it's a completely different story. I mean, it's an order of magnitude, the punishments that can come out of that. And a lot of people say, it's not treason. Well, no, we're not at declared war, but we are in a state of armed conflict. You are not directly working with the enemy, but we don't know that. People say that also. We don't know that. We don't know who was talking to whom. Maybe it was just Roger Stone doing his leaks through, getting his leaks from WikiLeaks. But any two-way conversation with people who were saying there are known Russian intelligence officers involved, right? If you're an American citizen, you wouldn't want to have anything to do with that. You would want to stay away from that as far as possible. So let's assume that one of those two things are it, because the only way it could get worse is if both of those things were involved, where you have individuals who are willing to coordinate with Russian intelligence at the behest of the Kremlin for money from Russian oil and gas interest, for that promise of something greater than your service to the United States should you win the election. Right? Because this isn't ideological. This isn't just about getting the Supreme Court in the hands of someone who is super conservative. This isn't about getting rid of Roe versus Wade. This is clearly about money. And every one of the characters that's been associated with this is money.
You could go down the list. Trump's own personal investments, right? You have all the violations of the Emoluments Clause. His son-in-law,
Money.
His inner circle,
Money.
Flynn, Sessions, and who knows? There are parties involved that we're not, the public does not know about. So there's a lot of money
Right.
going back and forth. Is it just the American corporate news media? They're just piss poor and incompetent, and they haven't uncovered this. You were talking about this almost a year ago. A lot of folks were. You were Johnny on the spot, and they just chose to look the other way. I mean, how do we explain this?
You have to understand something. This is not, when we're talking about this Russian operation to carry out an influence campaign against the United States, we were not just talking about the news media. This didn't originate with Putin's Russia. This originated with Stalin, Lenin in 1917, where their core business was human management. And the way that they managed human beings was to create this ideology that promised that you were going to get a share of something, but that in the end was authoritarian dictatorial state, which would just kill you if you stepped out of line. So Vladimir Putin was born into that society. He was raised into that society. He saw the KGB as noble knights